Welcome to video 9. In this video, I'm going to be demonstrating how to add setData and getData methods to the template object. So why do we need these in the first place? What's their purpose? Well, I wanted an easy way for the controller to be able to provide data to the view and for the view to be able to receive that data and insert it into the view templates. So these two functions do exactly that. The setData function is used by the controller, which passes in a name and a value, and that name and value gets saved in an associative array within the template object. When the view is ready to display, it accesses the object, it pulls out the data that it needs, and it inserts it into the template. Let me show you what I mean. So the first change that we need to make to this template file is that up at the top, right after the class line, we need to add private data. And this is going to hold an array that'll hold the data that we need to save from the controller and that'll be used by the view. Now near the bottom of the file, I'm going to add some extra line breaks. Just make it easier for you to see what I'm doing. I'm going to add a comment here. I'm going to say get setData, and this will help break up the file a little bit into individual chunks. And below that, let's create the function. So public function setData, and it's going to have 3 arguments. It's going to have a name, it's going to have a value, and a clean variable, which is going to by default set to false. And while we have this started, let's add in documentation. So this function basically saves the provided data within the object array. So I'm simply going to say it saves provided data for use by the view later. And it has 3 params. It has name, which is a string, has value, which is a string, and it has clean, which is a boolean, either true or false. And then it's going to return null. So within this method, we're going to first check if clean is set. And if clean is true, we're going to pass our value through the HTML entities function to make sure we get rid of any HTML that's within this code, make sure it's escaped properly. For example, it's safe to put in a database, that sort of thing. So we're going to do this data. So we're going to be accessing our data variable. And we're going to use name. So this data variable is an associative array. The array key is whatever name we pass into this method. And the value is whatever we assign it. In this case, we're going to do HTML entities. We're going to pass in value, and we're going to use int quotes, and that makes sure that quotes are escaped properly. If for some reason clean is not true, if it's false, we're simply going to set, basically going to do this exact same line, just no HTML entities on it. Like so. So as a quick example, say someone passed in, they passed in header, they passed in the value of header as, I don't know, hello, and they passed in false. Or if they just left it blank, it would be the same thing as false. So what it does is it would set, within the data array, it would set an item with a key of header to the value hello. And if it passed in true for this last argument here, then it would go through the cleaning functionality, which makes sure that the value itself is escaped properly and it won't include any HTML. So let's do a quick test. You won't actually be able to see that much, but let's go ahead and open up our index.php file. Let's do template set data. And I'll just do the exact same thing. Header hello. And now you shouldn't be able to see this when we actually run it. Let me just double check my template. Hopefully that looks good. Yep, so you won't actually see any changes, but it is being saved in that array. And let's show you how you can access that information. So now below this function, we're going to create the getData method. So that's going to be public function getData. And we're going to pass in a name, and we're going to use a second parameter here, echo equals true. And add documentation. This is, so the set data function saves it, this one retrieves. So this pulls data from that data array and it provides it to the view. So in this case, param is going to be a string, and the second parameter echo is a Boolean. Basically, this is going to indicate whether we want to immediately echo out this data or simply return the data and have whoever is requesting this data handle that. So return, it could potentially be null or it could be a string. Just depends on the situation. So in this case, we're going to say if is set, and we're going to make sure that our variable is actually set. This name, like so. So if this variable actually exists, we're going to go ahead and check if we echo it out. So if we do echo it out, we're going to echo this data name. So this echoes out the array item with a key of whatever name we passed in. It should look like that. Otherwise, we're going to return the same exact thing. Now, if for some reason this doesn't work and the user tries to access a piece of data that doesn't exist, we're going to return an empty string. So I guess I can say it simply returns a string no matter what up here. So now that we have the getData function in place, let's actually test this. So you notice we have set the header. So let's go ahead and modify our view. And that's going to be within views, vPublic home. And let's add a paragraph here. And we're going to have an opening PHP. And we're going to say this. And we use this because the view is being included within the template object. So this refers to that template object. So this, getData. And we want to get the piece of data with the header name. And then we close off the PHP tag and we close out the paragraph tag. So let's test this and hopefully everything's working as I expect it to. There we go. So to follow the process through once more, it starts with the index file. We set a piece of data. The data has a name of header and a value of hello. Within the template, we go into the set data function. It takes that name and value and it saves it within the data array. And then within our view, we request that data, which calls the getData function. We make sure that that particular value exists, and if it does, we echo it out based on this second parameter here, or are we returning? And in this case, since we only, here we go, since we didn't include a second argument, it's going to echo it out rather than returning it. So hopefully that makes sense. And we're going to be using this extensively to be able to pass data back and forth from the controller to the view.